Nioh 2 is a hard game for beginners, especially if you didn't play the first entry. Its mix of fast-paced combat, complex systems and huge loot pool make it not only mechanically hard but dense too. Luckily for you, I've put a lot of hours into Team Ninja's incredible adventure, and I've got some tips to share to help you find your feet in Nioh 2's dark and unforgiving world. Number 1. Learn to switch stances on the fly. Every weapon in Nioh 2 has 3 stances: high, mid and low. The mid is the standard stance, while high is generally slower and more damaging, and the low is faster but weaker. There are many moves for each weapon, and all are tied to 1 or 2 of the stances, and there are even moves that will switch stances during an attack or evasion. While you could probably run through the whole game using only the mid stance, learning to switch them on the fly is a valuable talent, as more diversity and greater understanding of your chosen weapon will make you a better fighter in the long run. Number 2. Master the burst counter. It's hard to overstate how essential this one move is for progression. The standard parry will work for most normal attacks, even from bosses, but any enemy from the lowliest Gaki to the mightiest demon samurai can perform devastating ki bursts that can and will one-shot you. A standard parry will not work in this situation. Instead, you'll need to hold the right trigger and press circle, which will invoke your inner guardian spirit and perform a burst counter. If you time it right, you'll not only avoid damage, but interrupt the move, deal your own damage, and deplete a large chunk of the enemy's ki. Be aware though that all 3 types of Guardian, Brute, Feral and Phantom have different timings and effective spacing. In the back half of the game where you can alternate between 2 Guardians, make sure you know which one is active or you could catch a yokai blade to the face. Number 3. Make ki pulsing a habit. Whenever you fight yokai, and you will fight them a lot, they leave behind pools of dark ki or kai energy. If you stand in these pools, you won't regenerate ki, which is a massive problem because it means you can't attack or dodge. However, you can dispel them by performing a pulse or flux. After every attack, you will see faint blue motes of light swirl around you. Hit the bumper at the right time and you'll perform a pulse, or switch stances and you'll perform a flux. This will dispel the pulls and speed up your ki recovery. Most weapons also have a skill attached that allows you to perform a dodge at the right time to achieve the same result. Number 4. Experiment with the weapons. Nioh 2 has a great selection of weapons and you can have 2 equipped at once. Each one benefits from a specific stat increase, and they are designed to either complement or offset each other as you grow stronger and diversify your build. Even the large weapons like the Odachi and Spear are pretty fast in Nioh 2, and reach and manoeuvrability are often more important than how much raw damage you're dealing unless you spec'd for that specifically. Spend some time in the dojo summoning phantoms and trying out the weapons. You might end up sticking to one for the whole game, or you might switch them out as the situation requires. I personally favoured the Switchglaive for its reach and speed as I have a magic skill build, but it's worth trying them all out to see which one fits your playstyle. Number 5. Remember, you've got more than just your swords. Combat in Nioh 2 is an intricate dance and only partly relies on your main and secondary weapon. Even armour with high stats is no match for an enemy with a well-timed combo or an unexpected ki burst, and your weapons can only do so much. Luckily, you're outfitted with a lot. Bows, rifles and hand cannons are great tools for dealing damage to pesky archers, pulling enemies out one at a time, or even just getting a bit of crafty damage in before the fight starts properly. Bombs and poisons and a huge variety of amulets, charms, spells and curios grant many buffs and advantages during tense fights. Always check what you have assigned to your shortcuts before each mission and be prepared. Number 6. Ninjutsu and Onmyo, if I'm saying that right, magic are invaluable. Likewise, if you choose to build away from raw damage, Ninjutsu and Onmyo are very, very useful. The former allows you to craft shuriken and kunai, poison broth and caltrops, focusing on debuffing the enemy and dealing tick damage. The latter is magic, granting access to protection or damage spells, elemental attacks and various buffs and boosts to skills associated with magic. You can build comfortably enough with none or just a few of these abilities, but if you take a deep dive into either skill, there are some great options for both pure and hybrid builds, and the skills themselves can be essential in a tight spot. Number 7. Explore everywhere. Although Nioh 2 isn't open world, the mission areas are pretty tightly packed with enemies and secrets. Check down every path behind and inside every building, up every barely visible forest path and collect everything you can find. Wells, crates, boxes and barrels can all hold items worth grabbing. Number 8. Don't rely on summoning spirits to help you. While you can use a Choco Cups to summon in AI-controlled spirits of other players, they're often more trouble than they're worth. It's nice to have a bit of backup during submissions, and it's always handy if someone else pulls the boss's aggro, but the AI behaves oddly at times, running off on its own, getting lost and triggering enemies. They also almost never heal themselves. That said, having your spirit summoned earns you glory and cup, so it's best to use your righteous Jasper right before a tough area in the hope that you can be of at least some help to someone. Number 9. Trade with the Kodama. You can't buy elixirs anywhere except at the Kodama shrines, and you can only trade there with rice, which in turn is earned by making offerings to the Kodama themselves. That's the little green fellas with the rice bowls on their heads. While it's worth disassembling a few items here and there at the blacksmith for material, don't waste gear selling it for cash. You'll earn enough just playing. Instead, offer what you don't need to the Kodama during missions, and you'll earn rice and amrita, which will keep you topped up on elixirs and ammo forever. Incidentally, the little yokai looking Kodama, the Sudama, only appreciates spirit stones. Drop one on the floor in front of them to receive a reward. Number 10. Don't be afraid to grind. Nioh 2 is tough, and even when you're several levels above a mission's recommended level, it's not a guarantee of victory. The stats make a difference, but it's a small one. What's more important are gear and skills. If you're struggling with a mission, earn better gear and amrita to level up by running through an earlier mission again. The gear rewards even change for repeated runs. Number 11. Temper your weapons. There are lots and lots of buffs and debuffs in Nioh 2, and you will never need all of them in a single playthrough. For example, the bare-handed attribute is useless if you only fight with a weapon. If you head to the blacksmith, the temper option allows you to swap out the most useless skills on a piece of equipment for something that will benefit you more. Number 12. Toughness and agility grades matter. Perhaps surprisingly, the toughness stat does not determine how much damage you can take. Instead, it determines how hard it is for an enemy to break you, and by that I mean remove all your ki so that you're left panting and defenceless for a second or two, during which time, more often than not, you'll either die or be severely punished. The agility grade, however, is more straightforward. The better this is, the faster you will move, which is very handy for a lot of builds. Only the strongest and deadliest melee characters will build with low agility and high damage. Number 13. Kill with style. Remember that a piece of armour being either super ugly or hella cool has no bearing on your ability to survive. If you wear gear for fashion's sake, you'll have builds all over the place. Instead, head to the blacksmith and refashion your armour and weapons cosmetically to copy any of the gear you've ever found. It costs very little in the grand scheme of things and means you can still fight as well as look like a badass. Number 14. Pay it forward. It's always worth helping other players in expeditions using the Torii gate in the starting area. You can hop straight into a game where another player is requesting assistance, and you'll be rewarded with gear, amrita, crafting materials, money and glory for your trouble. It also never hurts to fight the same boss a few times to improve your overall skill. And number 15. Practice. I can't stress enough how important it is to spend time in the dojo when you're a beginner. Learning in the heat of battle is great, but that can cost you time, money, amrita and consumables. In the dojo you can summon the spirits of enemies, including armoured warriors and yokai, and practice ki pulses, burst counters and general combat, as well as get a feel for the weaponry. If you're struggling with timing, positioning, switching stances or using jutsu, a bit of time in the dojo goes a long way. Thanks for checking out our Nioh 2 beginners tips. If you found that video at all useful or entertaining, please do hit the subscribe button and of course the bell icon too, so that you're kept up to date with any reviews, previews, tips video or whatever we're posting on a given day. And don't forget to check us out on Twitter too @GodIsAGeek. Thanks for watching, see you next time.